Mass Effect, you know it. Space opera where you romance aliens, make impossible choices, and get really mad about the ending of the third game. But buried in all that, the big damn hero moments, the Garrus calibrations, the will bang okay memes, there's this faction called Cerberus that is doing something genuinely fascinating and kind of terrifying. They're not your typical video game bad guys. They don't have skulls on their uniforms or evil lairs with lava. They have labs, clean, white, sterile labs, professional HR departments probably, branding guidelines, and they're fascists. Not like, oh, they're the bad guys, so let's call them fascists. I mean, they are a nearly perfect working model of how fascist ideology actually operates, just updated for a sci-fi setting where humanity is competing with a dozen alien species for galactic relevance. Today, we're diving into Cerberus, how they're structured, what they believe, why it works, and why Mass Effect's version of fascism is actually scarier than the historical version because it doesn't look like fascism at first glance. This is going to be part political science lecture, part holy shit I just realized what this game was doing, breakdown. Let's talk about it. Chapter 1. It's not nationalism anymore, it's speciesism. Okay, so Fascism 101. At its core, every fascist movement starts with ultranationalism, the belief that your nation, your people, your group is inherently superior and has a destiny to fulfill. In the 20th century, that was about nations, Germany for Germans, Italy for Italians, the myth of a glorious past that needs to be reclaimed, usually through violence and purging the impure elements. Cerberus takes that exact structure and scales it up to the species level. Humanity first isn't just their slogan, it's their entire ideology. They genuinely believe humans are the rightful apex species of the galaxy. That humanity's destiny is to dominate, not cooperate. That every other species is either an obstacle or a tool. This is what political scientist Roger Griffin calls palingenetic ultranationalism. The idea of national rebirth, of reclaiming greatness after a period of humiliation. And humanity in Mass Effect? They've been humiliated. A lot. They show up to the galactic community late. The council treats them like upstart children. The Turians went to war with them. Every other species has a centuries-long head start on technology, politics, and cultural influence. So Cerberus looks at that and says, we're not going to ask for respect, we're going to take our rightful place. That's the rebirth myth. Humanity was always meant to be great. We just need to stop being weak, stop cooperating with aliens who don't have our interests at heart, and seize our destiny by force. Sound familiar? The genius of Mass Effect is that it doesn't make this obviously evil. Early on, especially in Mass Effect 2, Cerberus almost seems reasonable. Like, yeah, the Council did leave humanity to die at the start of ME1. Yeah, the galaxy is kind of dismissive of human concerns. Maybe Cerberus has a point about humanity needing to look out for itself. That's how fascism always starts, with a legitimate grievance twisted into a justification for domination. Chapter 2, The Elusive Man, or Why Fascism Loves a Guy in a Chair. Let's talk about the elusive man. Tim, glowing blue eyes, always sitting in that chair with a cigarette, speaking in this calm, measured voice like he's the only adult in the room. He's not an elected leader. There's no Cerberus board of directors. He doesn't answer to anyone. His authority comes entirely from himself, his vision, his charisma, his mystique. This is classic Weberian charismatic authority. Max Weber, the sociologist, identified 3 types of legitimate authority: traditional, kings, inherited power; legal, rational, democracy, bureaucracy; and charismatic, personal magnetism and vision. Fascist movements always rely on charismatic authority. Hitler, Mussolini, Franco. Their legitimacy came from the cult of personality, not the law. The elusive man is that, but in a tailored suit with a space cigarette. Everything about Cerberus is structured around him. You don't join Cerberus because you believe in a system or a constitution. You join because you believe in him. Because he's the guy who sees the big picture, who makes the hard choices, who knows what humanity needs even when humanity doesn't. It's a leader cult. His image is everywhere. His word is final. Questioning him isn't just dissent. It's betrayal of the entire cause. And here's the scary part. He's effective. He gets shit done. He brought Shepard back from the dead. He has resources the Alliance can't match. He operates outside bureaucratic constraints. That's the seduction of fascist leadership. It works. Until it doesn't. Until the whole thing collapses under the weight of one person's ego and paranoia. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Chapter 3. Fascist Aesthetic. Or Why Everything Looks Like an Apple Store. Okay, quick question. When you think fascism, what do you picture? Probably something like 1940s aesthetic, right? Military uniforms, brutalist architecture, propaganda posters with aggressive typography. Cerberus doesn't look like that at all. Cerberus bases are sleek, clean white corridors, minimalist design, high-tech interfaces, everything's symmetrical, ordered, efficient. It's less evil empire and more corporate tech startup with unlimited funding. And that's extremely intentional because fascism has always been obsessed with modernity and technology. This idea that through strength, discipline, and advanced systems, you can create a perfected society. There's this concept called reactionary modernism, coined by historian Jeffrey Herf, which describes how fascist movements in the 20th century embraced cutting-edge technology while rejecting Enlightenment values like democracy and human rights. They loved trains, tanks, radio, film, anything that symbolized power, efficiency, and control. Cerberus is reactionary modernism in space. Their tech is state-of-the-art, their facilities are immaculate, their operations are precise. Everything about their aesthetic screams, we are the future, and the future is clean, ordered, and under control. But underneath that sterile surface, they're doing horrific experiments, turning people into husks, testing bioweapons on civilian populations, treating human and alien lives as raw material for their research. The aesthetic isn't just window dressing, it's part of the ideology. It says, we're not barbaric, we're advanced, we're what humanity needs to survive. That's how modern fascism would actually look. Not like the 1930s, like a tech company with a very specific vision for the future and absolutely no ethical constraints. Chapter 4, The Politics of Emergency, or We're all gonna die, so give us power. Here's how fascism justifies itself. Constant crisis. There's always an existential threat, always an enemy at the gates, always a betrayal from within, and the only solution is to give more power to the strong leader who can protect you. Cerberus lives in this space. The Reapers are coming. The Council won't listen. The Alliance is too weak, too bureaucratic, too concerned with playing nice with aliens. Humanity is surrounded by hostile forces, and unless we act now with strength and certainty, we're doomed. This is the siege mentality that fascist movements cultivate. Political scientist Stanley Payne calls it the primacy of violence and struggle. The idea that politics isn't negotiation, it's war, and only the strongest survive. And look, in Mass Effect's case, they're not entirely wrong. The Reapers are coming. The Council is in denial. There is a genuine existential threat to all organic life. But Cerberus takes that real danger and weaponizes it for their own agenda. Instead of, the Reapers threaten all species, we need to unite, Cerberus says, the Reapers prove that humanity can only trust itself. We need to dominate. They reframe a universal threat into a nationalist opportunity. This is what fascist movements do with every crisis. They take legitimate fears and channel them into, only we can save you, but you have to give us absolute power and stop asking questions. The emergency is real. The solution is authoritarian. And once you accept that logic, you've already lost. Chapter 5. Who counts as human? Spoiler, not everyone. So we've established that Cerberus is all about human supremacy, but here's where it gets darker. Fascism requires another, someone who's less than, who doesn't fully count, who can be excluded, exploited, or eliminated for the greater good. For 20th century fascism, that was ethnic and religious minorities. For Cerberus, it's more complicated. Obviously, aliens are the primary other. Turians, Asari, Solarians, they're not evil necessarily, but they're obstacles to human destiny. Their interests don't align with humanity's, so they can't be trusted. But it doesn't stop there. Cerberus experiments on humans too. They turn Alliance Marines into husks. They test Reaper tech on their own operatives. They treat anyone outside their inner circle as expendable. There's this concept in political philosophy, Michel Foucault's biopolitics, which describes how states decide which lives are valuable and which are disposable, who gets protected and who gets sacrificed for the greater good. And Cerberus has the means to do anything: cloning, indoctrination, bio-augmentation, technological resurrection. Which brings us to Chapter 6. Okay, so Mass Effect 2 starts with you dying, your ship gets destroyed, you get spaced, you're super dead, and then Cerberus brings you back. 2 billion credits, 2 years of work, and the greatest human hero in history is resurrected. On a plot level, sure, it's a video game contrivance, but thematically, it's perfect fascist myth-making. Cerberus isn't just recruiting a soldier, they're creating a legend, the savior of humanity, literally brought back from death to lead the species to glory. This is palingenetic myth taken to its absolute extreme, not just national rebirth, literal rebirth of the hero. Shepard becomes the embodiment of everything Cerberus believes: human exceptionalism, technological superiority, the triumph of will over death itself. They're trying to turn you into their Ubermensch, their Superman, their mythical warrior who proves that humanity is destined to rule. And the brilliant, uncomfortable thing Mass Effect 2 does is it kind of works. You spend the whole game using Cerberus resources, working with their operatives, completing their missions. Yeah, you can push back against him, but you're still advancing his agenda. The game makes you complicit in the fascist project while giving you just enough moral distance to feel okay about it. That's exactly how these movements operate in real life. They recruit good people who think they're doing the right thing, who believe the cause is just, who don't see the full picture until it's too late. Chapter 7, Mass Effect 3. When fascism eats itself, and then we get to Mass Effect 3, and Cerberus completely unravels. They're not the edgy anti-heroes anymore, they're full-on antagonists. Indoctrinated, building human Reaper hybrids, attacking the Citadel, fighting against the very people they claim to protect. The elusive man who was so certain of his vision becomes a puppet, literally mind-controlled by the thing he thought he could control. This is how fascist movements always end, not in triumph, in paranoia, purges, and implosion. Because fascism is fundamentally unsustainable. It requires constant enemies, constant expansion, constant crisis. It demands absolute loyalty, but offers no trust. It claims to protect the in-group while treating individuals within that group as disposable. Eventually, the contradictions collapse. Cerberus starts eating its own. They turn on former allies. They indoctrinate their own troops. They become so obsessed with purity and control that they lose sight of what they were supposedly protecting. Tim's indoctrination is a perfect metaphor. He spent so long believing he could bend the Reapers to his will, use their tech for human benefit, stay in control. And he couldn't. Nobody can. That's the final lesson about fascism. The people who think they can wield absolute power, who believe they're strong enough to handle the corrupting influence, who are certain they're the exception, they're always wrong. The ideology consumes them. Chapter 8. Why Cerberus is scarier than real fascism. So here's the thing that's been bothering me. Real-world fascism is easy to spot because it looks like fascism. The uniforms, the symbols, the rhetoric, it's all very obvious. But Cerberus, they don't look evil, they look competent. Clean labs, professional staff, cutting-edge tech, results-driven leadership. They're what fascism would look like if it had a good marketing department and unlimited R&D budget. And that's genuinely scarier, because the next fascist movement, if there is one, won't look like the 1930s. It'll look modern, efficient, rational. It'll use the language of science and progress. It'll have sleek interfaces and data-driven decision-making. It'll promise to save you from chaos, from external threats, from your own weakness, and it'll sound reasonable until you're too deep in to realize what you've signed up for. Mass Effect's warning isn't watch out for guys with swastika armbands. It's watch out for charismatic leaders with advanced technology who promise simple solutions to complex problems, who divide the world into us versus them, who tell you that strength and dominance are the only paths to survival. That's the fascism of the future, and Cerberus is the blueprint. Mass Effect, a game about shooting aliens and making your squad fall in love with you. Also a surprisingly sophisticated examination of how fascist ideology operates, adapts, and ultimately destroys itself. Cerberus isn't just a villain faction, they're a working model of authoritarian nationalism scaled to a sci-fi setting, showing exactly how these movements recruit, structure themselves, justify atrocities, and collapse under their own contradictions. They take legitimate grievances. Humanity is dismissed by the Council, we are facing existential threats, and twist them into a justification for domination and dehumanization. They offer strength, certainty, and purpose in a chaotic galaxy, and all you have to do is stop asking questions and trust the guy in the chair. The tragedy is that it works, for a while, until it doesn't, until the paranoia and impurity spirals and power consolidation turn the movement into exactly the kind of existential threat it claimed to be fighting. Anyway, go replay Mass Effect, romance Garrus or Liara or whoever, make the galaxy a better place. But maybe think twice before you trust the shadowy organization with unlimited resources and a really compelling pitch about human destiny. Because Cerberus isn't a warning about the past. It's a warning about what authoritarianism looks like when it's dressed up in a lab coat and speaks softly about humanity's future. And that's way more dangerous than any Reaper. Let me know in the comments, did you side with Cerberus in ME2? Did you feel weird about it? Do you think Tim ever actually believed his own bullshit? Or was he always just power hungry? Thanks for watching, and remember, we are humanity's best hope, but also maybe let's not do fascism about it. See you next time.